At 7:17 a.m. on June 30th, 1908, a deafening roar tore across the remote Siberian sky, shattering the stillness over the Podkamennaya Tunguska River. Moments later, a colossal fireball exploded midair, with a force so immense it flattened 80 million trees, shook the earth like an earthquake, and sent shockwaves felt hundreds of miles away. No crater, no impact site, no meteor fragments, just devastation and questions. What happened over Tunguska that morning? A meteor? A comet? A secret natural phenomenon we still don't fully understand? Or could it have been something far more extraordinary? Something not of this earth? Today we revisit the mystery, exploring scientific evidence, suppressed reports, survivor accounts, and strange anomalies suggesting that Tunguska may be the most plausible case of a non-human aerial craft entering Earth's atmosphere and losing control. Let's start with the blast itself. Witnesses described the sky splitting in two, glowing with a blue-white intensity brighter than the sun. Herdsmen were thrown off their feet. Windows shattered. Heat seared the skin of people living nearly 40 miles away. Those who saw the object streak across the sky described something unlike a typical meteor. It changed trajectory mid-flight. It slowed down. It glowed with colors rarely seen in natural bolides. The explosion, 30 times more powerful than Hiroshima, occurred in mid-air. But unlike asteroid airbursts observed today, the Tunguska blast left behind a zone of trees that remained eerily upright directly under the epicenter. Their branches were burned off, but the trunks stood like poles, almost as if a directed downward blast pushed energy straight toward the ground. This kind of pattern isn't typical of meteor airbursts. Let's move ahead 20 years. The first scientific expedition, led by Leonid Kulik, expected to find a large crater or massive metallic fragments. Instead, they found scorched soil, fused quartz-like rocks, and trees pointing outward in a perfect radial pattern. But the more Kulik explored, the stranger the findings became. Symmetrical depressions in the ground, melted sand, unusually high magnetism readings, and sections of forest that looked like they had been cut down with enormous precision. Even more peculiar were the nanodiamonds discovered in the soil, microscopic diamonds formed under extreme heat and pressure. While such diamonds can form from meteor airburst conditions, the density and distribution at Tunguska didn't fully match modern simulations. Something else was present, an elevated level of rare earth metals, not commonly associated with asteroids. Jump forward to the late 20th century. Soviet scientists quietly cataloged unexplained radioactivity pockets in the blast zone, even though no nuclear material was known to be there. Researchers found that the region's magnetic field behaved abnormally during certain seasons. Instruments malfunctioned, compasses spun, and perhaps the strangest detail, satellites captured persistent atmospheric anomalies above Tunguska for years. Shifting light columns, streaks of ionization, and plasma-like formations. It was around this time that a controversial hypothesis emerged. What if Tunguska wasn't a meteor at all? What if it was an extraterrestrial craft, malfunctioning, breaking apart, or deliberately detonating before impact? This theory gained traction because the explosion behaved like a controlled detonation, not a natural one. In declassified KGB memos, scientists discussing Tunguska mentioned intelligent course correction, controlled descent patterns, and non-natural flight anomalies. Even more intriguing is an interview from the 1990s with a reindeer herder whose grandfather witnessed the event. He said the object shook like a wounded bird, slowed as if thinking, and dropped with purpose, not accident. If the craft hypothesis sounds far-fetched, consider this. NASA's modern simulations show that the Tunguska trajectory does not match the orbital path of known asteroids or comets. The energy dispersion pattern doesn't match standard airburst models. The electromagnetic disturbances left behind resemble those produced by high-energy propulsion systems. But let's explore the counter-arguments. Because Tunguska remains one of the most fiercely debated mysteries. Some scientists propose a stony asteroid, that disintegrated in the atmosphere. But stony asteroids don't typically cause such symmetrical treefall patterns or produce rare chemical signatures. Others argue it was a comet nucleus. Yet a comet would have contained mostly ice, which would have evaporated, leaving almost no particulate evidence. Still, fragments embedded in tree resin show metallic anomalies far richer than what comets contain. Modern researchers have suggested methane gas explosions, underground eruptions, or even miniature black holes. But none of these theories fully explain the eyewitness accounts, atmospheric electricity anomalies, or the precision of the radial destruction. There's a missing puzzle piece, and that brings us back to the extraterrestrial theory. Imagine a craft entering the atmosphere at high speed, suffering catastrophic failure, and initiating a self-destruct sequence to avoid crashing into populated areas. The burst happens in mid-air, a massive release of energy, enough to prevent debris from reaching the ground. No wreckage, no fuselage, just shockwaves, radiation pockets, and magnetically twisted soil. Even if the vessel was unmanned, a probe perhaps, the logic still holds. Self-destruction would erase evidence. But here's where things get even stranger. For decades after the explosion, local tribes refused to enter the area, calling it the place where the sky gods punished the earth. Their oral history describes a burning iron ball that descended like a god with anger. Tribal elders claim that the land remains watched and that strange lights appear in the sky during the anniversary week of the blast. Even modern hikers have reported glowing orbs, magnetic interference, and unexplained illnesses after visiting the epicenter. So, after a century of research, thousands of eyewitness accounts, and countless scientific studies, we're left with a handful of theories and one enormous question. Did something non-human enter our sky that day? We still don't know. And that uncertainty keeps the Tunguska mystery alive. A century-old explosion that changed the landscape, rewrote atmospheric science, and may have revealed the closest encounter Earth has ever had with something beyond our world. Before this ends, consider this final thought. If Tunguska was an alien craft, what was it doing here? Observing humanity? Studying the planet? Or was the explosion not an accident at all, but a warning? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You never know which mystery awaits.